Ini cara-cara kehidupan seharian angkasawan. Bagaimana mereka mencuci rambut?
Hi there. I've had a lot of people ask me how I wash my hair in space, and I thought I'd show you how I do it. Let's see. To get started, these are the things I need. A bag of warm water, a little no-rinse shampoo, towel, and my comb. What I like to do is start by just putting some hot water, squirting it onto my scalp, and I have a mirror here so I can kind of watch what I'm doing. Sometimes the water gets away from you and you try and catch as much as you can. Then I just work the water up through to the ends of my hair. Then I take my no-rinse shampoo and squirt it also on the scalp, just a little bit, and rub it in. Again, kind of working it out to the ends. And sometimes I'll actually take my comb to help work it all the way to the ends. And I like to take my towel while I have the shampoo in there and just kind of work it. Because without standing under running water, you kind of need to use the towel a little bit to help get some of the dirt out. I like to follow that by a little more water. It's called no-rinse shampoo, but I think it's best if you use a little water with it. It actually feels kind of squeaky clean right now. Now I'll take the dry part of my towel. We use towels for quite a while here, since we have limited supplies. We use them wisely. There, I think that's pretty good. And now as my hair dries, as the water evaporates from my hair, it will become humidity in the air, and then our air conditioning system will collect that into condensate, and it won't be long, and our water processing system will turn that into drinking water. At the end.
Okey, bagaimana mencuci rambut? Mengapa angkasawan mesti mencuci rambut? Kerana kulit kerana rambut tu akan berminyak, akan nanti tak cuci rambut, semua rambut akan digugur, akan jadi gugur. Mereka mesti cuci rambut di angkasawan juga, di angkasa juga. Bagaimana mereka minum air?
Наш следующий сюжетик о том, как вода ведет себя в условиях невесомости, но уже без вот такой чашечки, о которой я рассказал. Это Геннадий Иванович поддерживает меня, чтобы мои силы не упали во время нашего репортажа. Это апельсинчик, который нам привез наш прогресс. Вот такие пакеты существуют на станции для заполнения водой. Вставляем в раздатчик. Вот вы слышите, наверное, как он закачивается? Пакет надувается, да? Все, у нас полный пакет с чистой питьевой водой. Закрываем кран. И для того, чтобы пить эту воду, вообще это не вода, а hint of lemon. Это лимонад. Вот вставляем такую трубочку, можно открыть клапан. Вы видите, ничто не течет, вода не протекает нигде. Очень удобная штука. И вот отсюда можно пить вот так вот. Открываем клапаночек. Вот видите, как все полетело. Мелкие капельки водички. Нужно быть очень аккуратным с водой в условиях невесомости, особенно во время помывки. После спортивных занятий, потому что все это именно вот так вот и разлетается, как вы только что видели. Вот у нас лимонад. Вот эта капля, она сейчас станет идеальной сферой, когда возмущение успокоится, и там внутри вкрапление воздуха. Я даже уйду со сцены, чтобы вы все это видели крупным планом. Ну а сейчас разрешите мне все-таки выпить это дело, потому что как вот перед ораторами ставят стаканчик водички, я тоже, у меня в глотке пересохло, потому что я испытываю волнение перед столь почтенной аудиторией. Я позволю себе это сделать.
Air pun terbang. Okay, mereka susah nak minum air dengan cawan. Okay, ini ialah apa yang mereka harapkan. Mereka tidak dapat minum air dengan cawan. Bagaimana angkasawan tidur?
Hi, Chris Hadfield here aboard the International Space Station. We keep busy on board the space station. Long days, lots of work, physical exercise. At the end of it, you're tired. But how do you sleep in space? In order to make it comfortable for the astronauts, originally they were going to put us all in one habitation module with sleep stations all around it. But the way a station was eventually built, we have sleep stations inside Node 2, which is in the forward part of the station, and inside the service module, which is in the aft. A total of 6 small bedrooms, sleep stations, or sleep pods. And inside each one is just a sleeping bag tied to the wall. You might think it's uncomfortable not having a mattress and a pillow, but without gravity, of course, you don't need anything to hold you up. You can just completely relax. And you don't even need a pillow. In space, you don't even have to hold your head up. So you can relax every muscle in your body, and your arms float up in front of you. Your head tips forward. But before I go to sleep, I gotta put on my pajamas, because I have space jammies. I'll be right back. Great. I'm in my super comfy Russian full-length pajamas. Nice for when you have to get up in the middle of the night, and ready to go to bed. I'll show you where I sleep. This is my sleep station, my sleep pod. This is where I spend up to 8 hours every day here on board the space station. It's actually on the floor, but once you're inside, you just can't tell.
Angkasawan hanya boleh macam ni tidur saja. Mereka tidak dapat baling. Okay, mereka kena tidur dengan macam ni. Okay, ni ialah kehidupan.
Vsauce! Kevin here. Astronaut Mike Hopkins ran around the world. Sort of. During a 12-mile run on a treadmill, the space station had orbited the Earth and traveled more than 25,000 miles. What the fack? The facts and knowledge on the daily life of astronauts. With a new sunrise every 90 minutes interrupting their natural circadian rhythms along with loud engine noises and floating in microgravity, it's much harder to sleep in space than on Earth. Astronauts have to tether sleeping bags to the ground, ceiling, or wall so they don't float around and bump into things. Aboard the International Space Station, crew members have individual sleeping quarters that are well ventilated, so they're not surrounded by the carbon dioxide they're exhaling. Earplugs, sleep masks, and sleeping pills are used to combat the unusual feeling of sleeping without gravity. Yet, astronauts still get 30 to 60 minutes less sleep per night on average compared to when they're on Earth. Since water won't naturally fall into a drain system, astronauts get creative when it comes to showering. Like taking a sponge bath where they moisten a cloth using warm packaged water with soap already mixed in, rubbing themselves down and drying off with a towel. Sometimes they can shower in a plastic cylinder that goes from floor to ceiling to prevent water from floating away. For their hair, there's a rinseless shampoo that is applied, rubbed in, and wiped off with a towel. Because there's no washer or dryer, clothes are disposable. Shirts, socks, and underwear are changed every day or two, and pants once a week. That's just inside the stabilized interior. If they're required to go out into space, it gets a lot more complicated. Spacesuits must protect from a pressurized atmosphere, provide oxygen, allow sight and movement, protect from radiation and micrometeoroids, and do all of this while keeping the human body at a comfortable temperature. There are 25 steps to take when getting into and out of the 13-layer, 280-pound, $12 million suit, referred to as an EMU. Astronauts select their food menus about 5 months before taking flight. Those selections are sent in for review and analyzed for nutritional content because nutrition is vital to the health of the crew. Each is provided with 3 meals a day plus snacks, with 2 days worth of emergency meals per person if needed. Aboard the shuttles at the ISS, foods come prepared in 4 ways: thermostabilized, rehydratable, natural form, and irradiated. They're stored in special packaging to prevent anything from floating around, and even condiments like salt and pepper are suspended in liquid to prevent particles from floating away. For exercise, there's a treadmill, stationary bike, or resistance training. 2.5 hours a day are devoted to physical fitness. One reason this is so important is because astronauts lose plasma throughout the body because body fluids move around in microgravity, and exercise is proven to increase the amount of plasma. When they're not working out or walking in space, they stay entertained by watching TV streamed from Earth, working on the computer, and reading, along with doing experiments on how things work in microgravity. Toilets are equipped with footholds, and both men and women can urinate standing up with the aid of a funnel. When it's time to sit down, astronauts pull a bar over their laps like when riding a roller coaster that fastens to their thighs. To avoid anything floating around, space toilets use flowing air instead of water to flush. When astronauts return from spacewalks and remove their helmets, there's a lingering odor of what space smells like left on their suits, and it's described to be similar to burnt metal. I'm gonna leave you with this. Who's the only US president to ever be present during the launch of a shuttle? Before we go, here's last video's winner. Leave your answers in the comments below, be sure to subscribe for more Vsauce 2, and as always,
Okey, ini ialah pertama wakil yang pergi ke luar angkasa. Okay, siapa dia? Bagi dia training, pemeriksaan dia, okey, ajar dia minum anti ham, namanya ialah ham, dinamakan ham. Oke, Ham yang telah pergi ruang kasau. Oke, bagaimana jalan di atas bulan?
No, dadgummit. Jack Schmidt having a few problems. Hang on. Yeah. All right. Good show. I told him you were. Whoop. Okay. We see that one went all the way in. Not quite. But there it is, all but about 5 inches.
Susah nak jalan di atas bulan.
Boy, do I like to run up here. I feel like Bugs Bunny. That's me. Skip along. Not me, boy. Skip. Or whatever you call it. I can't get my left leg in front of me. Dum-da-dum-dum-dum. Dee-dum-dum-dum. I'll give you a demonstration here, Joe. Roger. Right on. Here it goes. Spectacular demonstration. Oh, well. Enough of that. Lovely.
Oke, bagaimanakah dapat makanan di atas ruang angkasa?
There's no refrigerator on the International Space Station. The food all has to be shelf stable at room temperature. And the reason there's no refrigeration is because there's limited resources on the International Space Station. And this is also going to be true on a mission to Mars. Keeping foods stable for 5 years is a difficult challenge because you have to stabilize the nutrition and you have to stabilize the quality of the food, so how well it tastes. So if you've ever had a food that's been in your pantry for a certain amount of time and it's past the best of use by, but it's something like a granola bar and you still try it, or you have some crackers in there and you try them and you're like, oh, these aren't very good, chances are that food's still not 5 years old. So when we go to Mars, the food actually might get sent ahead of the crew. On the International Space Station, they get resupply missions every few months. On a Mars mission, they probably won't have any resupply. The astronauts are really excited when fresh fruit comes up on resupply missions because they don't get it very often, only when a resupply mission docks.
NASA cares a great deal about food for the astronauts. They need to consume enough calories, enough nutrients to stay healthy for the whole mission. And so a mission to Mars is particularly challenging. It could be 30 months, 6 months there, 18 months stay, 6 months back. And the food system might be deployed in advance of the astronaut. We may need food that will last 5 years and be delicious in the 5th year.
Flavor includes taste, which is things like salty and bitter and sour and sweet, and umami, which is actually savory. And it's also a lot of what you get when you're smelling the food. So most of flavor is aroma. When you're looking at taste changes, there's a lot of things that are going on in orbit that could be contributing to a sensation of a taste change. So potentially it could be the fluid shift in the body, so you don't taste things as well because you have a sensation that you have a cold. The aromas don't dissipate the same. They don't rise like they do here on Earth without gravity, and so they dissipate instead of rising, and so they're not getting that aroma, which is most of flavor. The astronauts have about 200 different food options, and that includes their beverages. It's cooked and prepared here on Earth. We remove the water. When they add it back, it's real food. This actually will taste just like you would expect a pasta with shrimp product to taste when you add water back. The reason we remove the water is partially for mass saving. So when you send this up into orbit, it weighs a lot less, and it costs a lot to launch a kilogram into space. So they recycle a lot of their water on the International Space Station so they can add the water back. And we expect that that will continue as they go on Mars missions, that they
they'd still be recycling a lot of their water. We know from studies that only about 7 of 65 of these that are currently in our food system would still taste good after 5 years. So this is like canned food that you buy in the grocery store, except in a flexible, lightweight pouch. If we do send these to Mars, we have to have a countermeasure in place, which could be a new technology to produce them. So we're still looking into different technologies and how much extra shelf life we can get. Can we get to 5 years by using those technologies, or even combinations of them?
Makanan yang angkasawan makan.
Astronauts all love their food.
Bagaimana hantar makanan kepada angkasawan?
So, NASA tried to ensure space food is as much like home cooking as possible. The process begins here.
We're making spaghetti with meat sauce.
It's only when it gets back to the NASA lab things change.
Thank you.
Spaghetti and meat sauce is just one of 250 options that the astronauts can choose from. And all of them are forensically prepared.
We have a database where we maintain the nutritional content of all our products, calories, fat, protein, carbohydrate, things like that.
The biggest challenge with cooking for space is weight. It costs $10,000 to blast each 1 pound serving to the astronauts. NASA has a clever way of dealing with the cost by removing 97% of the water.
Freeze drying removes a high percentage of the moisture, so typically when we freeze dry our products, we take them down to about 3%.
Each portion now weighs just 1 ounce. Cost to transport, $660. 1,300 miles away, an orbital Cygnus resupply module is being packed.
These are the tortillas. They're very popular on orbit.
Each apple is worth its weight in gold to transport.
As you can see, we're only sending 3 apples, so you may think that's unfair because we have 6 people on orbit. They may have to share.
For this launch, the precious cargo is hand-carried to the site at the very last minute.
It's on its way.
3, 2, 1. Less than a kilometer away from us now.
2 days later, and the groceries are arriving.
We're getting ready to berth the Cygnus 1 vehicle. All right. Looks really good. Perfect. Perfect. All right. Bonus food.
Including some surprise treats from their families.
Wow. Look at that. Tortillas. The real tortillas. Look at that. Real tortillas. Wow. Oh my goodness gracious. The greatest hot dog relish in the history of man. Oh my gosh, my wife didn't tell me about this.
Okay, bagaimana lancarkan roket, launch the rocket.
T-minus 90 seconds and counting. All systems are go. We're about 90 seconds from the launch of Space Shuttle Discovery. T-minus 60 seconds and counting. We are transferring to orbiter internal power at this time. Discovery is now running off its 3 onboard fuel cells. Coming up on a go for auto sequence start. And we have a go for auto sequence start. Discovery's onboard computers have primary control of all the vehicle's critical functions. T-minus 17 seconds and counting. 15, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, start, 2, 1, booster ignition, and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery, returning to the space station, paving the way for future missions beyond. Roll for seconds into the flight. Engines beginning to rev up. Standing by for the throttle up call from Capcom Steve Frick. Discovery, you can go at throttle up. Roger, go at throttle up. Throttle up, crawling down by Commander Steve Lindsay. Solid rocket booster separation confirmed. Guidance now converging. Discovery's onboard computers commanding the main engine nozzles to swivel, aiming the shuttle for its precise target in space for main engine cutoff.
You have a good forward leg now in S10. Okay, you sound good. Discovery Houston, negative return.
Okay.